Hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to introduce the last major writing project that you're going to be doing for the class, the evaluative review. Now, you've kind of just come off this really intense, research-heavy paper, and so this last assignment's meant to be a little bit more fun, right? So you get to step into the role of critic in this paper. Now, evaluative arguments, as I'll talk about a little bit more in the video on evaluative arguments in general, are arguments we often make all the time. We make them basically every day. You make an argument in the morning with yourself about what you're going to wear, what you're going to have for breakfast, things like that. And these are all evaluative arguments. Now, you don't often think about those a lot of the time because these are arguments you've made so many times that you're used to them. So what this assignment is going to ask you to do then is to step in the role of critic and think about how to evaluate a particular subject. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick a particular digital technology genre for your review and then write a detailed evaluative analysis of your chosen subject. So you're required to do the primary research, which means if you're going to choose a video or a movie, or a YouTube series or a game, or an episode of a television show or music album or piece of technology, you have to use, play, watch, whatever it is you're going to review. So keep that in mind as you're thinking about your topic, right? So if you're going to do a cell phone, if you want to do like the iPhone 6, you have to have an iPhone 6 or have access to one to be able to use it and review it. If you want to do Ghostbusters, you have to have seen the movie in the theaters, or go see it, pretty soon to be able to have that evidence to review it. So this, experiencing it, whatever you need to do, play, watch, whatever, it needs to be done early in the process. And so we've got a little bit, kind of just under 2 weeks left in the class. So you need to kind of keep in mind when you're picking your topic that you don't have a lot of time. So be thinking about that. So it's once you've evaluated your subject, once you've kind of gone through and analyzed it, you're going to be crafting an argument about its value, right? So just a regular review just kind of stops at the saying, oh, this is a good or bad movie, game, whatever, right? So you should check it out, right? So we're pushing it a little bit farther. Your argument in this paper is about value. So ultimately your goal, as you notice on the assignment sheet in the italics, is to make an argument regarding the value of your subject or what value the subject you're reviewing does or doesn't have for the audience, right? So again, this can be a negative review. It doesn't have to be a positive one. So, but you're talking about why does it matter to this audience beyond just, oh, this is a fun video, right? Fun movie to watch or whatever, right? So does this push the genre forward in new ways? Right? Is it just kind of a horrible disgrace to a franchise or something like that? So what is it that this tells us about whatever it is you're looking at? So part of this assignment is going to ask you to look at reviews and research the genre of the review a little bit more and kind of think about how to write one. And so you're going to be thinking about devising a particular set of criteria, right? What are the criteria that are going to be that you'll use to evaluate your subject? And there are criteria both for the medium. So let's say the medium of film, there'll be specific criteria, and there's going to be criteria for the genre as well. And there's specific criteria that are going to apply only to a horror film. So you need to think about your criteria, and you need to understand the conventions for writing a review for specific audiences, right? And that's one of the things you're going to do is you're going to find a target publication sample. So basically you're going to find an article and say, oh, I'm going to write my review as if I'm writing for the New York Times. So you will find a sample review for the New York Times, and that's going to be your model. It's going to help you in terms of thinking about the organization, the voice, the tone, that kind of stuff. So you're looking to make an argument about whatever your subject is. It should be regarding its aesthetic, social, and cultural value. So why do we care about this? What quality is it? Why is it important? And again, this doesn't have to be kind of groundbreaking, like, oh, this is the newest, best movie of all time, anything like that, right? It can be just, hey, if you're interested in a movie that has an original storyline, if you're invested in the characters of the Marvel Universe, Captain America Civil War is a movie you should definitely check out, right? So this is what you want to keep in mind. You're going to be working with, a particular set of expectations and conventions based on what it is you're going to review and the publication you use. You want to be looking into that. So now you get to be a little bit more casual with this assignment. So whereas, the last two, you could only use first person very sparingly. Right here, you can be more casual. You can use more first person, right? It depends on the publication you choose, right? But reviews tend to be more casual, so have a little bit more fun with it. Now, and what to do, what not to do. Reviews are based on sets of criteria that are usually determined by groups and communities. So you can't just make up your criteria. You can't pull them out of thin air and say, "Oh, here's." So, when we think about video games, right? There are criteria there that we're looking at. When we think about musical albums, there's criteria we kind of expect to look at. So you're going to have to work on researching and figuring out what those criteria are and what the ones you're going to be using are. And you will need 5 to 7 criteria for this paper. You need at least 5. So you're going to be doing beyond the subject itself that you're choosing to review, but it's not as intensive as the causal proposal argument. It's more meant to provide you with extra context about your subject, so you know a little bit more about what it is you're reviewing. So, and I'll come back to that in just a few minutes. So one thing you should not be doing, and I shouldn't see it all in this paper, and you will lose a letter grade immediately, if not more, if I see it. You should not cite any other review of your subject. So if you're reviewing Captain America Civil War, you should not. None of your sources should be a review of Captain America Civil War. Okay, you shouldn't look at them. Right. The moment you start looking at other people's reviews, they start to color what your review is. Right. You start kind of going through their lens then. So, in terms of picking a topic, this needs to be a recent subject. So it has to have either been released or become available to the public in the past 2 years or so. So if it's a long-running service or show or something like that, so if you want to do a show, that's, I don't know, if you want to do The Simpsons, which you totally could, it would need to be an episode from the past two years or so. If you want to do World of Warcraft, you would need to do the most recent expansion or something like that, right? So just if it's a film, a musical album needs to have been released in the past 2 years or so. So keep that in mind as you're thinking about your subject. So a couple of things. If you want to do a TV show, which is totally fine, you need to pick a specific recent episode, and you need to review the episode. You can talk about the entire show in your paper, but you need to focus on an episode as the actual subject of your review. If you want to do something like a musical album, you want to keep in mind that most of the time, most reviews of musical albums don't necessarily touch on all the tracks, or if they do, they do it a whole lot. So, you might pick 5 or 6 tracks in particular that are going to be the ones you talk about. So, so keep that in mind. So, what this assignment is designed to have you do is to think about how to craft an evaluative judgment of a cultural text, and think about why something is relevant. Kind of situate it within that system of value. So what how does this kind of fit into the genre of horror or romantic comedies or first-person shooters, right? So, and then to be able to identify the ideological work a text undertakes and how it serves a particular cultural or social point of view. So, in other words, going back to audience, right? Who is your audience? Why does this have value for them? That's what you want to be thinking about and arguing in your paper. So, as I mentioned, you need to find some sources for this paper. Now, it's a little bit different. So you need to find 3 outside sources. These should be pieces that help you establish context or provide details about what it is you're looking at. So as there's this whole kind of list of potential sources here. So, interviews, press materials, behind the scenes info, tech specs, articles that address issues relevant to your subject. Any of this is fair game, okay? Now, a heads up, you may not find a lot of that in the library databases. So, if you're struggling, don't worry about going there, right? This is for this assignment, you can Google stuff. YouTube videos are fair game as long as they come from a credible source. So in that list of potential sources, so things you can look for. It depends on what you're doing, right? But interviews with actors, director, crews, designers, marketers, all of that's fair game. Product websites. So if you're doing like the iPhone 6S, you can look at the iPhone website, and that's definitely a source you can use. Articles related to themes or concepts relevant to your subjects. So if you're doing this superhero film, there's an article that's a commentary about superhero film, that might be something you could bring in as a source as well. There is a lot of theory out there on film, video games, social media, right? So depending on what you're reviewing, you might be able to find some theory and bring that in if you want. If you're doing an adaptation or appropriation, like you're doing the Hunger Games, you can look at the original novel as a source. If you have a video and any of the DVD, Blu-ray extras, those are generally good sources to look at. You know, and YouTube, social media accounts of creators, actors, cast, crew. Those are great places to look. Product websites. These are all places you can look at information for this assignment. Because really, your outside research for this paper is just to give you more context about what it is you're looking at. When you look at reviews, people don't generally just see the film. They've done a lot of research. They know about the franchise, the director, and their work, things like that. So you're becoming more knowledgeable about what it is you're reviewing in your paper through your sources. Now, the other thing, as I was mentioning, is you're going to be picking a publication sample. You're going to basically picking a model for this assignment. So this is going to do a couple of things. So one, this is going to give you your audience that you're writing to. So you're going to, like I said, if you were writing for the New York Times, or you were writing for Wired magazine, or the Arizona Republic, each of those has specific audiences. So you're going to pick one as your model. You're going to think about who their audience is, and then you're going to follow kind of the template of their reviews. And that's going to help you think about how to organize, structure your paper, think about your voice and tone and things like that. So, you know, tech reviews, things like Wired magazine, right? Film reviews might appear in local national newspapers. And so you want to go look at several reviews. This helps you get a sense of what is in a review, what's it consist of, you know, what do you need to be doing, what are the audience expectations in terms of how you speak to them, things like that. So this review is a model, and you'll have to you'll submit a URL link to me at one point for the process work, so I can just look over and make sure this model works. The model should not be of your subject. So again, you know, if you're doing a movie like, what do I have the example? Okay, so if you want to do like Batman versus Superman, your model should not be a review of Batman versus Superman. However, it can be a review of another superhero movie like Captain America Civil War, Avengers Age of Ultron, anything like that. So, but it shouldn't be of what it is you're reviewing. So you're not going to be citing this in your paper. You're not going to be incorporating it in your paper. This is just a model you're looking at. So we're going back for this last paper. We're going back to the shorter length, 1250 to 1750 words. In the body of the paper, again, citations, you'll have a works page. So you have a works cited page. So your works cited page for this assignment should have, in most cases, you will have 4 sources. You'll need to cite what it is you're reviewing. So you need to cite the film, game, television show, whatever, and then you'll need to cite your 3 outside sources. Now, in a few cases, if you're doing a piece of technology, so if you're doing, you know, Bluetooth headphones or a cell phone, there isn't really a way to cite that. So you won't need to cite the technology, but you still need to cite your outside sources regardless. So what I'm looking for is that you basically have clear criteria that are defined throughout your paper. It's clear for your reader what your criteria are, how you're reviewing it. Your review is clearly written, it's organized well, it's insightfully argued. You understand the style and genre of your review. You follow the model you have, and you're kind of writing in that style. And you show evidence of critical engagement with the subject, and that's supported by outside research. You've done your work, you know what you're talking about. And really, you know, in the end, you make a strong claim of value. So beyond just saying, oh, this is a good movie, but hey, this is a movie that does new things for the genre. Or, you know, this game is just a rehash of every other Madden game. So sure, drop $60 if you want some new content, but sorry, you're not going to get anything exciting and new out of it. So the process for this paper, your topic paragraph is going to be due on Monday, August 1st. You've got the weekend to kind of think about your topic for this last assignment. And then next Wednesday, the 5th, you will have to turn in the target publication sample, criteria justification, and source list due. And that's going to be, otherwise, you'll work on that and you'll have basically a writing day, I think, Wednesday and Thursday otherwise. So, and for that, what I'm looking for is 3 things. So you're going to give me just a URL link to your target publication sample. So whatever the article is, you're going to use as your model. You're going to give me a list of your criteria and a short justification of why you've chosen these criteria for your subject, and then a list of your sources. And so just like with the source list for the causal proposal argument, if the sources change, that's fine, right? But just kind of evidence that you have sources and you're on the right track with your research for that assignment. So your first draft is going to be due on Friday, August 5th. It's going to be 1,000 word minimum. We'll do content peer reviews, and then you have the weekend to revise your paper, and then we'll be in kind of those last 2 or 3 days of the class. So on Monday, bias draft will be due. Before bias draft, 1,250 words. We'll do the editing, proofreading, peer reviews, and then the final draft is going to be due Tuesday, August 9th. So the Unit 3 discussion board is up now and should be available. So feel free if you have questions about the assignment, about topics, anything like that, or just about evaluative arguments in general, post there. I'll be looking over that, and answering your questions. So otherwise, I look forward to reading your causal proposal arguments as soon as I can, and seeing what you come up with on this last assignment.